Hello, I'm Abby, a co-founder of Thatch, and this video is an introduction for new sellers. As a quick reminder, Thatch is the easiest way to organize, curate, share, and monetize your travel knowledge. In this video, I'm going to show you around the product and then cover the two questions that new sellers usually have: what content to create and how to maximize earnings. So first, a quick overview. We're here on the homepage. There are a bunch of great free pieces of content here that you can tap through to get inspired. But let's look at what we see when we go into Italy. Now, this shows us all of the digital travel products that creators have made on Thatch that are for the country of Italy. So you can see that within Thatch, you can make guides, which are typically a deep dive into a particular destination with recommendations and context about that place. Itineraries, which organize content in chronological order, whether that's 7 days or 3 days in a city. Maps, which give specific recommendations in a particular location, not really organized, just around a particular theme. DIY tours, like a walking tour, a food crawl. And then custom services, which might be anything from a consultation call to custom trip planning or a custom map, making reservations in a foreign language, and so forth. So to make any of these types of content, you'll do that in your library. So we've just switched to my library here. And this is where you can create a new guide. I have a whole video on how to create a guide. So in this case, I'm going to tap into one I've already started so I can show you a couple of key features about our editor. Thatch has built a block editor, which means that you can use this plus button on the side here to add a new block at any time. The blocks range from text to the most important, which is a place, to video, image, and so forth. And once you've added a block, all of those are drag and drops. You can pick them up and move them around, and you can edit all of them at any time. So this is a place block that I've added. You can see it's the name of a location. And then one of the key things here is that I've added a note to this place, and we can even tap into it to read the full note. And you'll notice here that you can also add a voice note if you would prefer. Notes are crucial to providing value with a Thatch guide. If you create a Thatch guide and you publish it, especially if you plan to publish it for a price, you really, really need to add notes to all of your places. Why? Because you can see those notes on the map. So if you add notes inside of the guide, but you don't put them in the place itself, they won't show up on the map. And if you don't have a note at all, you're really not providing your perspective and your value to your audience. Once you've built out your full guide here, like I have, you can start thinking about how you want to monetize it. So there's 3 ways to monetize within Thatch. You'll notice on these hotels, there's a check prices button. So Thatch offers 6% hotel commission on any hotel booking that's made through the app. So if someone clicks on this hotel and they go to check prices, it'll take them out to booking.com. You'll earn 6% if they make the booking there. If for any reason you don't see your check prices button on a hotel you recommend, or the link is wrong in some way, you can come here to edit it. The other two, you can see when you go to the board settings button here. And the board settings button is important because that's also where you will publish your content to your shop and to the Thatch marketplace. So here in the settings, you can choose how you want to get paid. So you can set a price for your guide. If you set this price, that will create a paywall on top of your guide, and I will show you what that looks like. You can also turn on a tip jar. You'll also notice that we have a discount center. So if you want to run a sale or create a promo code, you can click here and organize that sale for yourself. So once you've set your price, in this case, I'm going to leave it free, but I turned on my tip jar and I want to make sure it's published to my page. I'll tap this button here and then I can just confirm and apply changes and that will go into my shop. If you don't publish a piece of content, it's totally private to you until you choose to publish it. Once you do publish it, it will show up in your travel shop, which is this right here is my travel shop. Anything in your travel shop will also show up in our search results. So that very first page I showed you with Italy, those were search results. Your guides will show up there once you've published them. Let's quickly go back to the board settings and talk about tags. So for content that you're publishing, really important to tag that content. So you'll give it a guide type. You'll also talk about the destinations covered and who it's designed for. So the destinations covered is really, really important when you publish. This is what matches to the search that happens up here for another traveler. So one thing that we do is we will group together places that are nearby for a particular search. So for example, if someone searches for California, my San Francisco guide will show up in that because San Francisco is inside of California. So you don't need to tag every single place that could possibly apply to this, but you should tag it with the specifics of where it is. So I could even add dog patch as a tag here, and then that will show up for a dog patch search, a San Francisco search, a California search, a Northern California search, and so on. So again, I'll confirm and apply my changes there. So back to my travel shop, a couple really important things here. It's important to fill out your bio. My bio, I would say, is even a little bit light. This is a place where you really want to strut your stuff, talk about your expertise. I could add here, lived in California for almost 10 years, really deep foodie, love to visit places through their food lens. So you should follow me or buy my guides because that's where my expertise is. So you want to talk about what you know, why you know it, how you like to travel, really share that, especially because that will show up on your paywall page. And maybe I'll just show you quickly what I mean by a paywall. So if we go to this itinerary and we look at one that has a price tag, let's tap on this one from Live and Jack. This is a paywall page. So here you're seeing the full description of the guide written by the author. You're seeing those tags that the author turned on in the board settings page. And then you're reading their bio right here directly on the paywall page. So this is why the bio is so important. It shows up there on the paywall, helps people make the choice to actually purchase this guide. You can see over here on this paywall, you just see the pins from the map, and then you can also see some of the images from within the map here as well. Let's talk about what happens when someone wants to make use of a piece of content that you've created. So here we are on a free piece of content from Live and Jack. This is a modern bucket list, Paris Reimagined. So if a traveler finds this in either Live and Jack's shop or in the marketplace, they can choose to save this guide. Now, if they do this, this guide is now going to show up in their library. That's going to be something that they can reference later on. And then they can also use the individual places on this guide to build their own trip plan. So how they do that is they tap this plus button. So say I'm looking at this bakery looks amazing to me. I want to go there. I tap this plus button, and now I can actually add that place with Live and Jack's notes, with their context, with their perspective. I can add that into my own trip. So maybe I want to start my own Paris trip 2023. I'll create that guide, and it's going to add that pin directly in there. And if I open this up, I can see that they have their note here. That note is going to come with me to the new guide. I won't be able to edit this place. This is straight from Live and Jack. So this is again why those place notes are so important. So that note can go with them. So let's talk again about what content you might want to make. Let's go look at my travel shop as an example for this. I lived in San Francisco for almost 10 years. San Francisco is a place I feel really confident making recommendations for. So you'll notice that a lot of my content is about San Francisco and the general Bay Area. That's a really great way to pick places that you might want to write guides about. You'll think about places you know really well or places you traveled recently. That's what these two are. And so you might have a perspective about what you found when you traveled there and what you enjoyed. So if you're debating between multiple places, I recommend that you go back to the search page, search for each of those places, and then pick the one that has the smallest number of guides already published about it. That just gives you the highest likelihood that your guides will get viewed and possibly purchased. Now, once you have your destination selected and finalized, then you want to start thinking about what type of content do you want to create. Our three most popular types of guides are itineraries, maps, and custom services. So let's take a look at each of those. So here is an itinerary. This is by Jim Bent of Peak Travel, and it's for a Hawaii Island 7 or 10 night stay. So what I love about this itinerary is obviously it gives a recommendation for what to do each day of the trip, but Jim also offers options. So 7 night, 10 night, and within each day, he gives you information about the trade-offs and lots of options for places to stay as well. One of the main benefits of itineraries to you as a seller is that in addition to potentially charging for them if you'd like to, they have the highest likelihood of having a stay booked through them. That's because often when someone is looking for an itinerary, they want everything to be decided for them. They're trying to follow a plan that someone else is recommending. So that means that the hotels that you offer, if they make a lot of sense with the itinerary you designed, there's a high likelihood that someone might book that hotel. So itineraries can therefore be a good option to keep free as well, like Jim did, so that more people have a chance to see your guide, know that it's good, and then decide to book hotels through the plans that you recommend. A second option is a map. So I love this map from King Koji. This is for a neighborhood in Tokyo. One of the things she does really nicely here is she uses the voice note option. So you can see that there's an audio note on this first place. And the way that she's organized this is a list of recommendations in a particular neighborhood. So she breaks them out by places to eat, coffee and cafes, desserts, places to shop, and so forth. She's left this free, and you can see at the bottom she has a tip jar available. Finally, there's custom services. These custom services are by Martina Bartolozzi, who's a Florence creator, and she's offering a few different types of custom services. So here she has 10 curated recommendations, also 20 curated recommendations, or 30 for different price points. And she also offers travel consultation calls. If you do custom recommendations and consultation calls, these are both opportunities, again, to share hotel recommendations that make sense with the traveler, and you can send that to them in a follow-up guide that you might share after the call or in that custom guide that you're creating for them. There's lots more details about offering custom services in our Seller Academy, so I will link that below as well. Now, the third thing to do after you've picked the destination and the type of content is to think about how you want to monetize. So I mentioned that there's really two sort of main options. One is to put it behind a paywall, and then one is to leave it free and rely on commissions and tips as a way to monetize. I have a few tips and tricks for thinking about how you might want to monetize. So let's go back and think about this itinerary example. Like I mentioned, if there's a high likelihood that someone might book your hotels, you could leave it for free, put on a tip jar, and then also offer those hotel recommendations inside of the guide. When content is free, there are going to be more people who see your content and more people who see your hotel recommendations and have an opportunity to book. When you put your content behind a paywall, that means that a smaller number of people will see all the details inside, and you're relying more on the paywall revenue to make money versus the commissions inside of the guide. One rule of thumb that I think about is if you're tempted to put your content up for $5, which is our minimum, I would consider whether it might be better free and you want to save something that you think is worth more money, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Those might be the pieces of information that you'd want to put behind a paywall. One note to make for that is that all of your services should absolutely have a price. Services should not be given away for free because they take a lot of your time and energy. So do make sure that when you select a service, you're putting those up for a fee. One other thing that people often do with free guides to maximize their revenue, and I believe Jim has done that here at the bottom, is he also cross promotes his other higher cost items inside of a free piece of content. So in addition to tips, the tip jar we saw below, and the hotel commissions, he's also offering a consultation call here. So you can add any guide inside of another guide by using that block editor plus button I showed you and selecting guide. That's a great way to use free content to promote other content. I also actually have a whole video about how to maximize revenue from your free content. So that's another item that I'll link below that you can use as a further resource. Let's wrap up with a list of best practices I want to leave you with. What you want to do for your content, and we can go back to the top of this guide to show it, is you want to give it a unique descriptive title. So here, this is very clear. It's about Hawaii Island, and it's a 7 to 10 night itinerary. If we go back to some of the other ones that we saw, Paris Reimagined, A Modern Bucket List, these are great, succinct, but unique titles. Make sure you add those tags that we talked about from the board settings menu. Be sure you've filled out your bio. Make sure you give it a good description. So this description here that you write at the top of your guide, that's what shows up on that paywall page. So remember here, this information at the top of the paywall, that comes from this description here at the top of your guide. So make sure you write a really robust description so somebody who's looking at a paywall piece of content really understands what they're going to get from that content. Make sure every one of your places has notes. If you add the note into the place itself, that's something that you can take with you to another guide, or one of your audience members can take with them to another guide as they build it. And then finally, just make sure you're sharing your unique perspective. This is all about you sharing the way that you travel. If you're a vegan, if you're an older traveler, if you're traveling as a family, make sure you're sharing your unique perspective. Don't try to appeal to the masses. Your content will find the other people who like to travel in that way also, and they'll really appreciate you sharing your specific perspective on that place. So all of this might seem a little overwhelming. It doesn't have to be. I really recommend you try starting with one free guide, one paid guide, and one service, if that makes sense to you. So just 3 pieces of content to get your shop started. And there are a ton of resources to help you in our Seller Academy. So those are all linked below. And finally, we do have a Slack channel. So if you're a registered seller, you will get an invitation to that Slack channel in your email. Be sure to click on that and join us. There are lots of other creators there, and the Thatch team also lives in the Slack channel. So we're there to answer your questions and help as you run into things as you go. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions I didn't cover, drop them in the comments below. Check out the linked resources and let me know if there are other videos that I can make that would be helpful to you as you continue to build out your shop and to share your travel knowledge with the world. Thanks so much.